How's it going, guys? I hope you are doing well this fine May day or afternoon or night, wherever it is you are. And if I cut out for one reason or another, it is possibly due to the fact that I have terrible allergies during the start of spring, so I will try to cut out any sneezing, sniffling, etc. that just so happens to come up during the stream. But regardless, I thank you all who are able to watch this live. And if not, I appreciate you still all the same. Of course, we've got in the chat Lizard King Productions. How's it going? Minecraft World. Hello, hello. And Antonio, what's up? Well, it's going good. I can't complain. Everything's going as it should be, you know. Spring is coming up, G-Fest is around the corner, and around the corner, I actually just mean like 3 months if you count July itself till that actually happens. But hey, who's counting besides me and everyone else waiting for that to happen? But in the meantime, if you guys are being so generous, I would love for you guys to come up onto the Patreon. Yes, where are the grifters at? Yeah, here is me grifting my Patreon as I well and ought to do. But yeah, so working on some projects during the summer since I'll have the time to do it and really dedicate myself to actually finishing them. So that's nice. I'm happy for that. What's up, Joe Smo? How's it going? How's it going? But yeah, so I haven't done an open mic in a little bit. How these are going to work is I will just bring people on, and excuse me for just 1 second while I sneeze. All right, there we go. First sneeze of the stream. So, like I said, we'll just bring people on, and I will actually be putting the link to join the stream on in the chat as well as in the Discord, and I will link the Discord as well. So yeah, if y'all are interested in joining the Discord, I always like to see more people join. Just make sure that like you say something, things of that nature, because there have been issues where people join and I'm not able to at them. The Discord is like a name with a bunch of random letters or numbers, and I'll DM. I'm not able to DM things of that nature, or like I'll DM and there's no messages from them, and I'm like wondering what's up. So that's just one of the things that happens when you try to keep the Discord as open as possible for everyone. So you invite those things. So if you want to join, just join, say hey, and we'll love to have you over there. But what we always do and what I tend to like doing is that before streams, I like to talk about things beforehand, just so, especially when it comes to the Zimcast where we talk about something, I can be a little bit more aggressive with my words. But what I want to do now more often is highlight things that are fun in the community. And yeah, the state of Godzilla's Thunder Thighs is definitely something we can discuss, but I do want to highlight a few things that are of interest to me generally, or interest to people that I may not do as a video or short itself. So the first few things I saw was apparently this, which is a possible like Monsterverse manual. So if you can read it right here, Titans of the Monsterverse have conquered the big screen, and now with this deluxe guide, their mysteries are revealed in full. This Monarch manual is filled with artwork and information that uncovers the secrets of the Monarch organization, employees, technology, and the Titans themselves, including Godzilla, Kong, Mothra, King Ghidorah, and more. And 1 sec while we make this the second sneeze for the stream. There we go. And I already popped like a dozen Zyrtex, so if I OD on stream too, there you go. And I just realized I said that before we hit the 10-minute mark, but oh well. As for this book, I am not sure myself whether this is real or not, because since I work in a bookstore, I will generally look to see if there is a like new Godzilla listings or kaiju listings, things of that nature. And this was not something that came up. So this might be something that is very early in development. And it says it's coming out September 9th of this year. The thing for me is that I know the -1 novelization was announced a while ago. So I was able to see it in our systems before it had actually been like announced everywhere. So like I kind of knew it was coming, but this I have not seen. I know I'll be in work tomorrow, so I can check tomorrow and see if there's a now like a listing that is shown there for this, and I can probably check under Monarch agents and researchers. But we'll see what happens in this case. But this was one thing I remember we had talked about for a while, in that we were saying that a possible like guidebook, story Bible type thing would be good, at least so we can understand what is canon, what isn't, and what is generally viewed as lesser canon, as it were. But yeah, so that is at least interesting. I'm interested to see whether that ends up becoming a thing or not. Minecraft, you think it's gonna happen? Getting it's not like exclusive content. Like I just see things a little bit ahead of time. It's nothing like too crazy, but it helps me get things like I know when I can get something shipped to my store so I can get it ASAP. But I don't usually get things earlier in most cases. But yeah, so I just wanted to highlight the Zogre drawing that I did. So that's new. People in the Discord saw it, and that's gonna be something that I will get to share in some time. And I forgot I meant to like his thing. My bad. I'm sorry, sir. But yeah, so come July, you'll know exactly what this is attached to, and this will be fun to see. And speaking of other fun things, so Kaiju April has finally come to an end. And I'm just using Liam's piece here because he did this one big thing here with everything, with all the kaijus. And it's really awesome. There's Necron there in the back. But these are always fun. I really didn't get to participate. I was super busy. And with more work and stuff, it just means that I'm not able to do it every single day. Although either at the end of May or next time when the next Kaiju April rolls around, I might just do a big piece to do at the end of Kaiju April and just tag everyone in it. But like, this is awesome. I always love seeing this. Ali was one who's in charge of it this year, so he'll probably be the one to do it again next year. We'll see. But if you guys are interested in doing or becoming a part of Kaiju April, follow like these guys. They're all talking to each other, all doing awesome Kaiju stuff. So yeah, definitely. And we got a super chat from the almighty Oreo King. And so the wizard banished Rodan to the Mexico dimension, where he will be forever guarded by the Super Saiyan El Mencho until the prophesied El Chapo rises for the final battle with the fire demon. Thank you, the almighty Oreo King. Yes, the El Chapo. I would love to see a Godzilla film that specifically takes place in like South America, or something that is Godzilla related that focuses around like smuggling, like Kaiju. Well, Kaiju Score wasn't drugs. It was a theft. It was a heist. But yeah. Oh, he did confirm that he's not going to be doing it next year. Oh, that's a shame. But someone usually always does Kaiju April, so if it's not him, it's going to be someone else. I know, right? I'm being fancy. Super chats and all that. But the last big thing that I'm going to talk about before we start getting people on is situation that's going on with Vic. So his dog is got a growth. I was going to show the fundraiser, but it does show the growth itself, and I'm not sure how much YouTube would want me to have that on there. So yeah, if you guys are feeling generous, or you got some change lying around, definitely shoot him a thing on the fundraiser there. I will put a link to it in the live chat in just a second, and tomorrow when I finish the ping comment, I will put that there as well. So that's just something to consider. And yeah, like definitely help out Vic, or if you're feeling really generous, get a commission from him, and he can put some of that money as well towards these expenses here as well. So something else to consider. And finally, to end it off, a fun thing that I saw here. So people don't like Destroy because he's shallow, kind of just evil, and that's it. Generic design and overhyped, which is literally more accurate when it comes to Scar King, than it does to Destroya, because people say like Destroya has like a generic demon looking design, which is far from the truth. Windscar King is literally just big red ape. But we do enough Scar bashing here on stream to where you can last a generation on it. We will subsist completely off of slop. But without further ado, I can finally start to invite people on to the stream. So there we go. We'll put that there, invite into general, and then we put it here for everyone as well in for the regular chats. So as people pour in, that means I get to settle in and we can just discuss things. And once again, thank you to the almighty Oreo King for the super chat. If anyone else is feeling generous, I would love a super chat. Donations like that really mean the world, and I thank you a ton. I know I'm getting really close to a big payout as well, so I appreciate it all the same, guys. And the first to arrive from the multiverse, from the Zimcast multiverse, is the Black Rooney, or Rooney Vince.
Stand ready for my arrival, Worm.
There we go. There we go. And next coming in is, he is from a QB world. He loves chicken, lava chicken more specifically. He's the jockey. He is the Minecraft world.
Coming in hot!
And next
Hitman
we've
hot.
got, he is working on his Godzilla project as well as his King Tyrannos project. So he's been making waves. We love him here. And he hasn't been on a stream in a while. It's the old man of the Zimcast. It is Lizard King Productions.
Old man.
Yeah, old man.
Old man.
I had to make sure this was before your bedtime. Come on.
Dude,
Told
we've
you
seen
that.
your
No.
dude, we've seen your face. Come on, man.
You are Santa.
I am, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also,
Oh,
Zim,
Lord.
I'm probably gonna have to head out in about 20 minutes. I have a thing for school. It's a final presentation that I need to do. So
Totally
Just
fine. Totally
letting
fine.
you know
I
ahead
just
of
appreciate
time.
you coming on all the same.
yeah, if the stream's still going, I'll join back on.
Yeah, it's gonna be a
The thing-
2-hour stream, so that's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
Well, the fact that
Yeah, the
you're,
present-
needing to have to go and do this project, dude, you better ace it then.
Exactly.
If you're on here, you better ace it.
it's not affecting to my grade. It's debate. It's potentially it's a mandatory thing that I need to do at the end of the year. I also
Wait
have
a
to do
minute.
it.
That's
for-
what
Hold
every
up. If
student
it's-
does.
Wait a minute.
I think you're
If
just
it's
describing
wait a
a
minute.
test.
If this is something that's
No,
not going
it's
to
not-
affect your grade, then why
No,
worry
no, no,
about
no.
it?
It's not. No, it's not a test. It's an art. It's not a test. It's an art review. Like I have to make a presentation where I share all the artworks that I made over the course of the year.
Oh,
And then
art.
Ooh,
I
I
thought you
remember
meant art,
those.
in
Oh.
general.
Awesome.
I thought
As
you meant
well.
art like in general, because I could have given you a couple ideas. Why Godzilla versus Kong is a blight on humanity.
No. But also for my art history course, I'm thinking of doing a final discussing like paleo art because we have to do an
That'd be
essay
fun.
on. We have to do an essay about like discussing why an art piece should be included in the course, and I was thinking paleo art as a whole should be discussed because it just feels important.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
Fun
awesome.
fact.
I mean,
As
Fun
well as
I
let
mean,
me
how
just get
that
the
art
rest of
has
the people
advanced,
on
it's
stream real
great
quick as
looking.
well. I just want to get the last two guys on here, of course. We got Hoshian. Hey. And we can't forget about we love him, we hate him, the 98 punching bag. It is D-Vic.
Yo, how's it going?
You know, Vicking
I don't
around.
care how strong you are.
Hey.
I don't
It's
care
the-
how fast you are. I can see the future. You don't live to see tomorrow.
We were all
Are you
Vic
sure?
fans.
it's the chibi kaiju maker.
Yeah, he is the chibi man, which I can actually post those up in the meantime. But
which
while
I can't
doing
thank you
that-
enough, by the way, for doing that.
Hey, Zimzilla, can
Yeah,
I ask
same.
have you seen the fan art I sent in art critique? If so, what are your thoughts on that?
I think I did see it. Let me do that while I am grabbing everyone's art. If anyone's got a discussion topic, I am more than willing to have that kind of be the thing we start us off with.
So
I
can
have
we
a
all agree that
discussion.
I
Go
was
ahead.
going to start.
Nah, you
Can we all
first.
agree? So what's your favorite dinosaur and why?
Ceratosaurus easily.
Giganotosaurus.
Okay, but why?
Perhaps
Because
I
he's
really like his
awesome.
design. It really was that sense of warrior nature to him. I really like it.
Well,
I
He
just love
has
all
I
the.
Giga
mean,
in
I
his
know that
name. That's all I need.
I know that no one's gonna care, but mine is Spinosaurus, and here's the reason why.
Hey!
Here's
The
the reason
popular ones
why.
are popular for a reason.
Well, okay, and probably for those type of reasons. My reasoning behind it is that because it has such a very interesting history from the first time it was discovered, and the fact that we lost the holotype due to World War II, and then it went several, like I think like 20, 30 some years until another skeleton was found in Egypt. And then it's just as the years progressed, it changed. And it wasn't like, oh, tiny drastic changes here and there. No, they were dramatic changes with every new discovery. And it's like, and it hasn't stopped. There's still more drastic things coming out. And I've even watched a YouTube episode of paleontologists literally having an argument over the Spinosaurus and their differing thoughts on it. And at the end of it, they're like, well, yeah, we should just, make up because of the fact that we have no idea what the new thing is going to be coming down the road.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I know for
Spinosaurus.
me, yes. Like I was gonna say, Spinosaurus is definitely an interesting one. I know for myself, I like Ceratosaurus mainly because of its like skull and the three horns that it has, or
You know,
crests more
Spinosaurus.
accurately.
What are you guys' thoughts on the version that was in Monsters Resurrected?
It's okay.
Carnotaurus is my favorite, partially because of the association with Disney's Dinosaur being one of two dinosaur
Yeah.
movies to get me into prehistory.
Mm.
Well, one of three paleo-related media to get me into prehistory. The other two being Jurassic World and the documentary Titanoboa Monster Snake. But
Mm.
also just Carnotaurus himself is really unique in his own right.
Hmm.
Mm.
For me, my favorite dinosaur has always been Allosaurus, mostly because growing up, like my personal favorite paleo documentary was the Walking with Dinosaurs Big Al special. I loved that
Oh
one
man,
growing
that
up.
was years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the way the crests are formed on that dinosaur.
Nice.
It's interesting that that with that documentary they had two different Allosaur designs throughout the series, because that was the first one that was from Time of the Titans, and then there's the Big Al version that you see, which has kind of become just the Allosaurus for the Walking With series. And real quick,
And then we'll
another
probably-
super chat from the Almighty Oreo King. Not to shill, but I'd highly recommend Lizard King Productions. If you're looking for commissions, he's worth the money, which he is. Man does good work.
definitely.
Well, thank you,
Definitely.
Almighty, but I'm not going to try to toot my own horn either, so I'm just going to keep quiet.
Hey, dude, you're cooking with your Godzilla project.
I'm just saying, don't be too humble, man. You do
Can
good
I
work.
ask you something about Ceratosaurus?
Yes.
Hmm?
Mm-hmm.
Ceratosaurus was a
Oh, that was
back
something
to
else, Zim, I wanted to
Allosaurus.
say really quick, was that when you brought up the Ceratosaurus, way back in the day when I first created King Tyrannus, he was a lizard, but he had Ceratosaurus DNA in him. He was a branch off from the Ceratosaurus. I have the artwork. It's all old. This was years ago. Like, wow, has it really been about 13 years now?
You can't go
13
wrong with
years ago.
Ceratosaurus. I'm sorry. He's just the king. But Hoshi, what was it that you wanted to ask me about Ceratosaurus?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, is it true that Ceratosaurus was like a punching bag to someone like Allosaurus?
No, that is Allosaur propaganda. It is the dreaded Allosaurus. It is big. It is not big. It is Big Al Pharma and their lies. That is Allosaur propaganda right there. Allosaurus is distracting. Or actually no. Allosaurus is just distracting from the fact that it's smaller than Torvosaurus. So sad. Saurophagonax, not a real dinosaur. It's a sauropod. So sad. Allosaurus anax, whatever you call it, Ceratosaurus, we're simple folk, I love Ceratosaurus. No one loves Ceratosaurus more than me. But Ceratosaurus is a fighter. But yeah, Ceratosaurus is interesting to me because it's such an old dinosaur, but unlike Spinosaurus, where it's gone through so many drastic changes, there's just a lot of material out there when it comes to Ceratosaurus's depictions, and you're spoiled for choices. Like Harryhausen did 2 Ceratosauruses, Animal World and 1 million years BC. So both of those are really fun to look at. Plus, even though they're Tyrannosaurs they're named that in the movie Unknown Island, they're really essentially just Ceratosaurs. And even though it is a punching bag in Jurassic Fight Club, I do like the Ceratosaurus design from Jurassic Fight Club. Yeah. And I think the design in Jurassic World it's like the original design's okay, but I like the new version in the games.
Nice. Yeah, since you mentioned that, yeah, Ceratosaurus has been relatively consistent in terms of its paleo documentary. I think the only other dinosaurs I would argue are as or more consistent would be a lot of the herbivores, like specifically ceratopsians and sauropods for the most part.
Yeah, depending on the sauropod, they're either pretty consistent, or if they're on the older side, they kind of went through like that transition from the original.
Something like that.
Yeah,
and Kylosaurs are similar.
Yeah, and Kylosaurs, Stegosaurus, I think was no, you had that very, very old, basically proto-Godzilla style design.
Are you talking about Diarachodon?
Yeah, the one where it's like they had the tail club as the spikes on the back.
Yeah, Diarachodon. It's interesting because that's I think I forget when those depictions were common, but that's essentially right at the tail end of the Edwardian Victorian era dinosaurs. And then you start getting the classic American retro dinosaur type stuff. But also, how's it going, Brandine?
It's the man who colored Stan Winston's Godzilla from Gemstone for you.
Exactly, yeah. As well as, since I do have them in the back now, I can also display all of the art that Vic has been working on. So if anyone's also interested in getting some art from Vic, you'll be able to see these little goobers. So there's Chibi Zogra with his little tum tum, and then you have Chibi Pocho, Chibi Ranos, Chibi Ius. So yeah, Chibi Gura, Chibi Cho, Chibi Ranos, Chibi Ius. But these are all super adorable, and if you want a chibi version of any of your kaiju, you can definitely commission Vic for one of those.
So you're telling me Vic created NFTs? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, they're what's it called? They're Vic FTs. I think that's a more accurate term, Vic FTs. Or VFTs. VFTs.
I still can't say thank you enough. I was very shocked about seeing mine. I saw the whip on the WIP on Discord, and I was like, no, is that really what that is? Dude, I had to really look. It's yeah, it is.
Dude, same. I practically shrieked with joy the moment I saw that. Genuinely, it's awesome to see people make fan art of these characters.
Exactly.
Dude, I need your man card. If you shrieked like a little girl, give me your man card.
Dude, no, I lost mine in a fire a long time ago.
Oh Lord.
And then I mean, I accidentally threw it into a campfire. My house is still happy.
What, did an
my house
eagle
is still
swoop
peaceful.
down and take it off the rocks as it
No, a bird
well
shot on
as-
my head. A bird was shitting in my head. I tried to swat it away, and then I dropped it into a fire pit.
Bro, you're telling me you lost a
Duh.
fight with a bird? Bro, you lost a fight with a bird.
Listen, it was almost midnight, okay?
That bird sent you to Jesus.
What bird flies around at midnight is what I want to know.
Yeah, I want
I
to
don't
know.
know.
Or did you get it confused with a bat?
Or was it
I
like
don't
the
know which
flatness
one-
monster type thing? Like
What
was
are
it a giant
guys' thoughts
owl?
on
Actually,
my
no.
Godzilla design?
No, there's the
So what are your thoughts
starling.
on them?
What was the
Oh,
question?
that's cool.
Oh yeah, it's Antonio's Godzilla design, his Godzilla Junior design, and
Ooh.
then his monster design. We can go over the Godzilla design first.
Ooh.
Buff. Really buff.
I like the chest scar. The chest scar kind of reminds me of the Doom Slayer, like the Mark of the Slayer, kind of.
Yeah.
I was thinking,
I can see
I was thinking Berserk, but I think that looks a lot more like the Mark of the Slayer.
Oh, I can see it like the Mark of Sacrifice, yeah. As well as like
I really like this design. And like
Yeah, I
your
think-
whole style, it gives me like this weird vibe of like Dark Horse and Masters, like Berserk, kind of like mishmash, and I think that's really cool.
Like I
Yeah.
think that your style really benefits like this like original monster that you have here.
Oh, that gives me an idea. That gives me an idea. What if Godzilla was one of the apostles of the God Hand?
Ooh, that'd be
Oh,
interesting.
Lord.
God Hand Godzilla. Or just like literally God's like that old title for Godzilla, Sacred Beast of
If
the
you want to know,
Apocalypse.
the reason why I draw these is because I don't know. I want to add an idea like, what if like someday in the future Warner Bros. Just announced, "Hey guys, we're making an animated Godzilla movie. Look forward to it." If so, what would you think about it?
I would I think that definitely if you were to do something like this animated in your style, it kind of have a pretty like either I would like to see it have like a very surrealist sort of animation flow to it, or something where it's like rotoscoped similar to like heavy metal was, and like essentially do something where you have actors in suits acting out the actions but rotoscoping over with the actual designs.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But
Really cool designs.
indeed. Now, since it's been actually like for the past couple of weeks, we've been doing a lot of Zimcast, a lot of streams, a few videos here and there. I'll have another video out soon. But I know some people in chat as well as in the stream itself have had some thoughts about the Godzilla community. So I'm curious if anyone else has got more thoughts or a topic they want to float around and discuss here
I
on the
got one.
roundtable. All right, old man,
I
let's
got
hear
one.
it.
Well, you see here, I just want to go in ahead and just make sure that all you youngins understand that what I'm trying to put out here is for everybody else, okay?
They're Godzillas.
Oh, you should put up. You should try doing a Bernie Sanders voice. That I think that'd be more convincing.
I did do the Trump one.
Well,
so-
I'm not that great of an
Yes.
actor, but
Question for you. How do you guys feel if someone directly at your face told you, "Man, I really don't like how Monsters did its OG kaiju designs. I much rather prefer how the
I've had
Toho
way too-
does their designs."
No, I've
because
had wait. No,
that's how
I've had
I was
Hoshi.
talking to
Hoshi, I can
someone
answer
when I
that.
was watching
Hoshi, I can
with a
answer
friend.
that question because of experience. I can answer that question because of experience. Basically, if someone said I dislike the MonsterVerse designs, I prefer the Toho ones. I can answer that question because of experience. I pumped them to the moon, and then show them a picture of Kumanga and tell me and ask them. So you're saying this is good?
Kamunga clears easily.
Kamungus.
Kamungus.
Now I'm just imagining Kumanga playing Among Us
The
with
reason
Comet
why
the
I'm
Rift.
asking you this, guys, is because I think the reason why my friend said is because with Toho, when they go into design these titans, their kaijus, is because they want to add in some sense of feel to them, some sense of theme, something that these kaijus want to tell. Like they have a story to tell. Whereas the monster designs, they want to go with super semi-realism to the point that they basically take away from the whole aspect of what made them so special to begin with.
So are we also just not going to ignore again Kumanga being basically a realistic take on its, well, a semi-realistic take on a tarantula, literally just being a spider in comparison to someone like Abaddon actually, going in a bit more of a fantastical route by comparison?
I could be an asshole and point out the obvious grammatical error in your sentence, but I'm not going to.
You get my point.
I would say, like, generally, like, when it comes to the
Tiamat is better than Manda.
You walk on thin ice, boy.
I know.
I may not be old enough to be your father, but I'll spank you like I'm your father. But
I mean, we met each other in person, so I'm fully so.
Well,
Hey, you call him daddy by any chance?
How would you guys feel if somebody directly told you that all the MonsterVerse movies are terrible and they much rather prefer films like Shin Godzilla -1?
So, Blackaroonie. I'm sorry, that was too easy.
Am I wrong?
Yes, you are. Half the MonsterVerse is good, at least. Anyways,
I can have a third debate. I can have a third King of the Monsters debate. I don't care.
Ooh. Ooh.
I'd rather rip your ass over Shin Godzilla, but that's another time. I need to go.
Hey, I'm more willing. I'm more willing with Shin, but yeah.
Yeah, I need to go.
Well, you need to go and get your project done.
Come on, boy. You gotta go get your project done. Then
before I go, watch Gurren Lagann. Bye.
Dear God, it's midnight. So
yeah, no, I'm more willing to be convinced that Shin
if
Godzilla's
you
not that
ever
good.
do this type of live stream, please don't do it when it's midnight in mine, please. I'm beg of you.
Once I have more free time, I will definitely try to do these streams a little earlier in the day, as well as I'll try to do more weekend streams. But I will try, Hoshi, for Eastern Europe. But I thank you very much for coming on, my friend. And was there anything also real quick you want? Oh, nope, never mind. He bounced. I was gonna say, was there anything else you wanted me to plug for him? But nope, man knew what he needed to do.
But yeah,
I wanted to go ahead and try to put out. Oh, sorry, you're talking, man. I apologize.
No, you go ahead.
No. I'll wait.
No, I was just gonna say.
I've been trying to say something for a while, so I think you should go.
Yeah, no, let's
No.
because I already said what I said. I was just gonna repeat it. So you.
No, you're fine. So my thought is, and going back to his initial question, which was, if someone came up to you and said that that the MonsterVerse Godzilla series as a whole is garbage, or I think that's how he said it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think he said
that
specifically the
they would,
MonsterVerse.
the MonsterVerse as a whole, where they would prefer Shin or -1. My thought process on it is that they're all part of one thing, and what I mean by that is that they all share Godzilla's name, and Toho allowed all the certain iterations, different storylines. They have to have a say, even in the MonsterVerse. They have to have a say to an extent. Now, they did give the rights to Godzilla for a certain amount of time, and I think they re-upped it again because of how well the MonsterVerse was doing. But they only gave the right to Godzilla. They gave the rights for Ghidorah, Rodan, and Mothra for Godzilla King of the Monsters because that's what the director wanted and really wanted those characters. But then they were revoked after that film. So I just see it more along the lines of each film is good for what it is. Now, I understand, like for some of the MonsterVerse films, the storylines weren't that great. The human characters and some of them not that great. There wasn't much of a thing for them. Like with King of the Monsters, its focus was more monster based instead of human based. Godzilla, the first one in 2014, it was more a human story, but having to deal with the situation like what humans would deal with a typhoon or a tornado or whatever natural disaster they have to deal with it. And so that's why Godzilla was there but not there. He only had like a 15-minute time, like all together. All of his scenes collectively were like 15 minutes in that film.
I think for something to that degree, yeah.
Yeah, but it's my thought process on it is that they're all good for what they are. If you have your opinion and you can have it, and I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you your opinion's wrong. And that's and what you were talking about, Zim, about earlier. What discussions that we wanted to continue with the Godzilla fandom as a whole is that it's because I've actually had to deal with a lot of backlash, and even now with this project that I've been doing, I've been getting every now and then, which more recently than not, people getting upset. Certain things were changed, certain things were done, or I left out certain things, or I'm not going to be doing something. The fandom as a whole wants to be upset for upset's sake. And I don't understand why. It's like, I get that you have your opinion. I get that you like a certain aspect to a certain character within this fandom, but that doesn't make you right, and it doesn't make me right. What you like is what you like. What I like is what I like. What you like and everybody else around you. Can we not just all, not to quote those old movies back in the day, but can we all not just get along? Can we not just get along? I
Okay,
thought that's what Gene Fest was all about.
Can I answer that? I'm gonna answer that with
Go
a
for it.
question. When you say the movies are good for what they are, do you mean financially? Because I would say financially, a lot of them really actually are. So I would agree with you in that sense, but in terms of like narrative quality, I would heavily disagree. I mean, we've done multiple streams. We have hours upon hours of streams just tearing the latter half of the MonsterVerse movies apart. Now, I would concede with Minecraft World, who mentioned previously that there are some good MonsterVerse movies like Kong Skull, Kong Skull Island and Godzilla 2014. Although with 2014, I'm a little bit more cautious now because it has been brought to my attention several inconsistencies with the plot, several plot holes, and I can't really reconcile them emotionally. So I would need like more evidence to support that. But I'm going to
Right.
put 2014 as something more like ambiguous because until like I have solid proof, I can't really say definitively that the assessment that Godzilla 2014 is not well written. I wouldn't make that a definitive claim just yet. But with the rest of the MonsterVerse, I cannot agree that like they're all entirely good for what they are in terms of if you're referring exclusively to like monster action. If you want to go with visual effects, they have had a significant decline, which is even more noticeable in Kong Skull Island, not Kong Skull Island, in Godzilla X Kong than they were in King of the Monsters. If we're talking about the actual fights, the things that lead up to the fights, aka the actions taken by the monsters, are entirely out of character. For example, I would note that the actions of Godzilla in regards to Ghidorah make no sense with his character. He's established as someone who prioritizes balance. So why, if he can imprison Ghidorah, then why doesn't he just kill him when he has the chance? It's not like he has a moral code against killing, and it's not like Ghidorah has any inclination to surrender. With Godzilla versus Kong, apparently Godzilla has always wanted to kill the Kong species and has always wanted to, and there has been recent evidence that that I discovered, thanks to I think it was Vic, if not it was Minecraft World that let me know of this, that Godzilla circled around Skull Island. So uh, I don't remember exactly what it is that was said in the conversation, but I think the conclusion that I came to was that there was absolutely nothing preventing Godzilla from going to Skull Island and killing Godzilla. I mean, screw it. Sorry, Godzilla going to kill Kong if he wanted to kill Kong. there was absolutely nothing stopping him, right? And so he has had
Mhm.
how many years? Like 2000, for as long as Earth has existed, for as long as Godzilla and Kong have existed, he has had the opportunity to kill Kong if he saw him as a threat, but then he just chose not to because reasons, I suppose. And then with Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, he doesn't even have a character at all. He can't be character assassinated because he has no character. With Mothra,
Right.
she has been character assassinated from because apparently the Mothra that was with Godzilla and King of the Monsters wasn't the real one. So any connection that they might have had has been completely severed. So this new Mothra, or actually the real Mothra that appears in GXK, quote unquote, she has no established connection with Godzilla, therefore shouldn't have any inclination to want to help him in any way. And with Kong, things just kind of happen to him. He doesn't. He's not exact in Godzilla versus Kong in particular, because I think Kong was at his best in Skull Island. In Godzilla versus Kong, he's passive. Things just happen to him. In Godzilla X Kong, he's a lot more active. So I would say that he's much better in Godzilla X Kong than he was in Godzilla versus Kong, but we're still operating under the foundations established by GVK, which is that the humans want to get Kong out of Skull Island. Now he's in Hollow Earth, and now he has his home. So we're operating on that foundation. So what they built upon for Kong wasn't exactly that bad, but the foundation itself is already falling apart at the seams. So I wouldn't say like narratively the movies are good for what they are. And in regards to the conversation of the fandom, I do agree. Like people can have whatever opinions they want, but if their opinion, I would also posit that if their opinion is based off of faulty information, then they can qualify as being incorrect because they employ presuppositions that are just not lining up with the events presented in the movies.
Right. And so to answer your first, well, the start of your question, I guess, that you posed to me was that, is it financially or for the, what did you say, the aesthetics, or
No,
I guess
the narrative quality.
the narrative quality? Neither. And I say it this way because I'm just glad that, and I get that what I'm about ready to say probably might start another conversation. I'm glad that we're getting the Godzilla content that we are, because I remember a time back in the 90s that, in the early 90s, there wasn't a lot. There were toy figures here and there. We had the Heisei films, which were at that time still considered, for children, even though it clearly is not, because you can watch a lot of that stuff and it's like, this was made for children. It's like, no, it was not. But that's how it was seen. That's how it was taken. And so Godzilla was not taken seriously. It was more a joke. In the early 90s into the mid 90s, it was a household joke kind of a name. And I remember very well when I was in elementary school and going into middle school, I was picked on because Godzilla was one of those weird niches that was not very popular at that time. And like I said, there was not much. Yes, there was like the Trend Masters. There was all those other, there was like one other toy company that was making Bandai similar Godzilla figures at the time. And that was it. There was nothing else. But now, in what we have today, it's much more than what it was then. And so the fact that we had to wait either a year or we had to wait actually about 2 or 3 years until we got something from Japan, because at that time, yeah, they were making Godzilla films almost every year, but it wouldn't come to America for another 2 or 3 years because it took them, took American studios, TriStar, time to translate, and I'm doing my air quotes there because some of the translations weren't the greatest, so that it could be for American audiences. And that's where, again, it was not taken seriously because you can see their mouth moving, but no words are coming out. And that's
Well,
why people took it very weird back then. But what I'm trying to get to is that I'm I under and again, I was not very happy with the storyline for Godzilla and Kong the New Empire. One, it seemed like the director was really trying to push for the outlandish old Showa series where Godzilla could do outlandish things, like doing that kangaroo kick where he could fly several, basically almost a mile or two that way to go flying and hitting Megalon right in the chest. There was all the most ridiculous stunts that could be pulled at that time, and it's like, but if the MonsterVerse is trying to be set in a mind in a realistic way, having Godzilla do what he's been doing, even in King of the Monsters to Godzilla versus Kong to Godzilla and Kong, it's like it seemed to me through the MonsterVerse that they couldn't figure out what they really wanted to do. Did they really want to do it based in reality, or did they want to make it so fantastical that it's not taken seriously?
The
But you
thing
could see that.
is, by the way, also hi everyone. The thing is, I think that Wingard just was like very, he was the one that changed it to the point where I don't know if I could blame the monsters as a whole, since like the two movies that actually go like full retard are because of him, like directly. So I don't know. I think that we should see what Stupore or Stepure or whatever his last name was.
Spitzer.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think we should see what he's going to do. And if even with a different director, they still do all of this
Hmm.
stupid stuff, like then we can say that the Monsterverse as a whole, yeah, definitely changed. But if he comes around and he does something more realistic, I think we can also deduce by then that yeah, it was actually just Wingard doing his thing, and the studio being like, okay, well, once, so whatever, let him do it, right?
To your
Mhm.
point, to answer your point first, not Lao. So I'll get to that later. So I understand like the gratitude for it, but I would disagree in saying that fundamentally, because like not I don't think Godzilla is taken more seriously because of the MonsterVerse. I think 2014 pushed for that at first, and then King of the Monsters was kind of irrelevant in the grand scheme of things in terms of like box office and general conversations. A lot of the conversations around the movie was localized entirely within the fandom, to my as far as I know. And then GVK kind of just undid all the hard work that Gareth Edwards and even to some extent Michael Dougherty and Vought Roberts did on having people take Godzilla seriously as an IP. So even in my own, I see it everywhere. Even in my own like friend circles, my friends, they're some of the greatest people I've ever met. They've helped me through the toughest of times. I love them to death, but I cannot talk with them about Godzilla because every time they talk about it, I talk about Godzilla with them, it's just infuriating because, like, for them, even one of them who's like an author, a published author, like I'm thinking, well, he's an author, shouldn't he? I'm pretty sure he would take fiction as a whole seriously because he does science fiction, but apparently Godzilla's just too much for him. Godzilla's too much to like take seriously. And then movies like Shin and Minus One or GMK or even versus Destoroyah to some extent, like they help undo the sillification, the goofyification, or like the perception of that. Movies like those help, and I'm not just talking about tone, I'm talking about narrative quality, because I don't think, because I think narrative quality uh dabbles with just human psychology, like that kind of thing is recognizable. People will notice it. It's also part of the reason why Invincible right now is so popular, because people are recognizing like, damn, this is not just your average superhero story. And right now the average superhero story has just really bad narrative quality. I mean, just look at the MCU or look at the DC, the canceled DCEU. Like it's superheroes have had a lot of it's had more downs than it has ups. So superhero stories have had like an upward have been fighting an upward battle. Um and have managed to come out on top thanks to like movies like The Dark Knight, Watchmen, Infinity War, Endgame to some extent, although I'd argue Endgame is not that good. I think Infinity War is a much better film, but that's besides the point. And so I wouldn't agree that these kinds of movies help people, shift the perspective to like, oh, maybe this is like a franchise or an IP that I should invest my time in. I haven't seen that shift at all, except for movies like Shin and Minus One, and even Minus One.
Right.
Even this in the States, I haven't seen that as big of an impact as I have with Minus One, and that's just basing myself off of like box office returns and critics and audience scores. And to the point of Lao, the point that Lao brought, I think that the movie that Grant Sputore will make might not be good, but the criteria that I use to measure that is if it ends up being better than the previous two movies, then I can just accept it, right? I can just accept that it's not the best written as long as it's better than GXK or GVK, because there's just so many not compounding, no, just plot holes and contrivances and inconsistent world building and power scaling that just cube on top of each other, that the next film is just guaranteed to just not be coherent at all. But if Grant Sputore manages to make something work despite that, not because of it, but despite that, then I think the MonsterVerse has some hope left. But if not, then I think the MonsterVerse is due for a reboot at that point. And it's a bit of a
Yeah.
doomer mindset, like it's gonna be a poorly written movie either way. But I would rather take the poorly written movie that is that has some semblance of narrative quality, as opposed to just doubling down on whatever it is Wingard did, or just trying to replicate what he did, or because I don't think I don't think the movie being serious is really gonna determine what the narrative quality is going to be, at least not entirely.
Real quick, for Almighty Warrior King again with the 9.99. Thank you. The years between 1990 and 2014 were also rough on Goji fans. While I wasn't mercilessly bullied for it, I was ostracized for loving Godzilla in school, and my biological father hated my love for it. I think we can all attest to bullying, but I think that it's especially unfortunate that your dad didn't really enjoy that, because I know for myself, I wouldn't like it as much if my dad had encouraged me to like it the way that I do, and I wouldn't really probably be here if not for him sort of nudging me in the direction of following what I like. But yeah, I think also generally
too,
nerdy things in general were just more like you were more apt to get picked on for nerdy things back in that day either, because things just weren't as like mainstream as they are now. Because I remember so many people that like made fun of me for liking video games, and then like once we all got into like middle school and like the console, like the 360 and the PlayStation, PS3 were all big, everyone had one, and like it always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I was like, y'all were like saying like making fun of me for liking games. Now y'all all have game consoles and talking about like, oh, this is like the true. Yeah, it was the hypocrisy that annoyed me more than anything else. I know for myself.
It's become mainstream to be a nerd, and I kind of just want to go back to the eras where it was more niche, because I mean, I'm kind of protective of the stuff that I like, extremely protective.
Yeah, I think like also like when things become mainstream, it goes without saying that they lose a little bit of like what makes them unique in that sense.
Yeah, because the mainstream is like it's in the name, stream, right?
Yeah,
it has to have some sort of not homogeneity. What's the word? It's used in like biology, homeostasis. I think that's the word.
You're talking about like where everything's essentially like one big like mass. Essentially, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, sort of, kind of. Like it's all just
it has to be part of the flow.
Identity.
Yeah,
it just made like as a singular organism. That's kind of what I mean.
I know what you're thinking. I can't think of. No, not amalgamation. It's not that.
It starts with homo, because like homo as in one, right? So homogeneity.
I think it's yeah. I think it's either homogeneity or homeostasis. I think
either one. Yeah, either one.
But what were you gonna say, Vic?
Well, I just want to speak a little bit, because like whenever I hear like the common stories of like, oh, I was bullied for liking Godzilla, I always feel bad because I personally could never relate to that because growing up, because like as we all did, like I grew up loving Godzilla. I was never like a closet Godzilla fan, I guess. If any of you guys ever went to that phase because of the bullying, um, like I can empathize with it, but I can never relate because I was always open about loving Godzilla. Like all my friends knew I loved Godzilla, and they would like all of my friends always, whenever I had a birthday or a celebration, Godzilla was the one thing that would get me. Um, like any Godzilla stuff, and like the one thing I was bullied for it was liking chicken nuggets.
Out of all the things,
What?
Out
is
of
it just
all,
because you live
dude,
in
where did you
California?
live?
Yeah, is it
Where do
just
you
because you live in
live where
California, so
people
they made fun
don't
of you
like
for making?
people liking
Like,
chicken nuggets?
Yeah.
what all
I
people
was
What kind
made
of
like?
fun of
backward
because
ass
Were all
comedy
guys
coming
white
from?
around you?
What kind of
Yeah,
backwards ass
because
comedy?
I was
you
I
come
was a brony in school, okay, and I was never made fun of for that. Like my best friend and I were bronies,
Oh.
and we were never made fun of for that. So like I just have a hard time relating to it, like because I can totally empathize and sympathize with you guys if you ever went through that. Because I know, like I said, I was bullied for liking a food, and so I know what that feels like. But I sort of feel bad
Yeah.
because like I can never relate. And like another aspect of that was like the Godzilla drought, because like I couldn't relate to that either because I was always satisfied with the Godzilla content I had. Because I was born in the early 2000s, and by then I guess more stuff was readily available. So like
Yeah,
in my younger
exactly.
years, I
You
had watched a
discover it.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had watched a lot of the Godzilla stuff by then, so I had like my whole lifetime to grow up on it. So I guess like anyone who was like older
mean-
or
I mean, with the
older than me,
bullying, for me at least, I've have experienced bullying for liking superheroes. I mean, I remember in fourth grade, people made fun of me for liking Kid Flash, like Wally West, New 52, that specific version. I was bullied for that. I was never bullied for Godzilla though. I mean, matter of fact, like my family, both my dad and my uncle, they liked Godzilla, even passively, but still, like my uncle was more, Godzilla supportive.
Yeah.
He actually, kept telling me, "Oh, I'm gonna get you a Godzilla figure." He never did, but I appreciate the sentiment.
Well, I mean, I was never
The
bullied either
intentions
for
were good.
Godzilla, but I mean, I was more bullied because of the fact that I was quiet. I didn't say much of anything. I didn't talk to anyone. So they kind of chose that to pick on me, but I never really made it known that, I liked Godzilla in school. I mean, my dad was the one who got me into it, and he was kind of not really passive about it, but he knew that I liked dinosaurs, so he's like, "Hey, I remember, watching this when I was a kid. Check this out," and he showed me, and I just fell in love with it. But
Yeah.
I guess where all the bullying with Godzilla came down to was the actual fandom.
Mm.
That's
Oh
where I
yeah,
received a
yeah.
lot of my bullying was through the fandom because of my point of view and the fact that I didn't try to push my point of view on anyone. I just wanted, and this is where I was coming in with that was that with what I'm doing now in my project, I have been in a sense scolded by people because of the fact that they're saying that I'm not paying enough homage to, or I'm going a certain route, or here recently it's you need to lay off the atomic power kind of stuff, or the radiation, because you've used it over 1 billion times now, and it's like I've only made 3 videos about the atomic monsters.
As well as
I don't
like
know where the
also
I think
billionth
like
people just
times.
generally don't like it when people are just passive about what they believe. They want passion, and from passion, a lot of it is rooted in the appeal of just being emotional about what you want, whether the emotion be anger or euphoria. I think people just
Right.
generally want
I
that. So
also
when
think that
people,
generally even that too. I think also like I think people are just like to just be douchebags on YouTube compared to like anything, or like just in general in some cases. Cause like even like I was highlighting it today, I got like the first person that like overtly was like, "Oh yeah, like your Godzilla audio drama is shitty." I'm like, okay. And like it's not even like criticisms, it's just like someone just saying it's bad. I'm like, okay, whatever. But like
Yeah,
I think
like
it
what
definitely
Right.
David
does
said.
it hits harder when like someone is like a fan and saying that you're doing your fan thing wrong. And I think like
I think like it's definitely within the right of a fan to like criticize the like creatives of like the company and stuff, to be like they're doing this or that wrong. But like if a fan wants to do something in a fan sort of way, like I don't really think there's too much of a problem with that, unless they're doing it out of like spite for the franchise. So that's why like I will never respect Josh Canupri or whatever his name is, his interpretation of Godzilla, because it was done out of a specific dislike for the franchise and its core values. Whereas a lot of fan gojis I see on like Twitter and stuff are like, oh, they're like, there's a lot of things I wouldn't do, or I would never want to see in an actual like official Godzilla material. But like, I just want them to do their own thing. Like, it's if that's what makes them happy in their little fan spaces doing fan stuff like that, more power to them, I'd say.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that
And
for
that's
me personally, sorry, you go ahead.
No. And that's what I've been trying to do. This project of mine that I have chosen to do is more my love letter to the films themselves, and it's stretching from the very first to what we have now. It's just my love letter saying that this is what I grew up with, and I have this much respect for it that I'm doing what I can to honor what has come before, what has been, and what is already here, and try to take that and honor it as best as I can. Even though it's not the exact way that, for instance, with Rodan, it's a pteranodon. In the film, it says it's a pteranodon. It's taken on the form of a pteranodon in in almost every iteration that has been made for it, except for Singular Point, which they went with both a pteranodon and with a Quetzalcoatlus.
Yeah. Real quick,
I was like, okay, well, if they,
because he is being super generous tonight. I appreciate it. I think he might get me really close to my payout for this month. But Almighty Oreo King actually did 2 super chats. One, what's the weirdest fandom intersection you've seen? Like a fan of Godzilla who's also been a fan of another thing. For me, it's seeing Goji fans in the coffin of Andy and Lele fandom. That's
For me, it was hearing Vic saying that he was a brony growing up.
actually, that's not the weirdest thing, because I've known like a lot of Godzilla fans who are also bronies. I'm not surprised by that.
Oh no, the Godzilla to furry pipeline is real.
Okay, I want to.
Oh yeah,
I want to say something.
I would say
I
that
wanna
that
say
is actually a thing because of the Mothra 2019 stuff.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
a lot of furries. A lot of
no.
furries. I've seen a lot of them.
Oh no! Oh, thank God I stayed.
Okay,
clear
I can
from that.
attest to something like that, because, as many people here know, I've made myself the figurehead, self-proclaimed figurehead of the '98 fandom, and a lot of '98 fans are like
Gooners?
freaks. I get a lot of
I knew it.
furries and a lot of feet people.
I knew it.
This is why I don't interact with fandoms.
Oh.
Like even like fandoms like from my favorite comic, Radiant Black. I do not interact with them. I just don't. Like I'll sit from the sidelines if I see something cool, but other than that, I just do not recognize their existence at all. I just like to, enjoy the comic on my own without really. I'll recommend it to people, but at the same time, like I don't want it to, blow up to just this big thing. It's my little indie comic that I get to enjoy. That and Ultra Mega. I think I've done a horrible job keeping them both because I just name dropped them both. But they're still, I would still recommend them. But yeah, on the point of like the fandoms and criticism and bullying and all that stuff, when it comes to that kind of stuff, I've received like a ton of hate for my videos, and that's fine. I like being notorious. I like the allure, just the thrill of being known as like
You're
the
a
notorious.
grifter.
Exactly. I'm a grifter, even though I don't get any money for it or don't receive any benefits. I just do it for the love. I'm a hater, okay? I just do it for the love of the game. Exactly. I'm like Conquest. I am so lonely. But yeah, no, whenever I see comments telling me, oh, you're wrong, this, that, and the other, I only pay attention to the ones that actually have something of substance to say, like, oh, this argument wasn't the best. Like Kasaibo, for example, I think he's my best critic so far. I don't think he's right about a lot of things, but I think he's my best critic. And if I'm making a story, right, or for example, like my Godzilla God of this World story, which was I have personally disowned that story because it's terrible. But yeah, no, like I would trust the judgment from someone like, let's say, I don't know, Zim or Metal Neck, the guy behind Godzilla Black Mass, one of my I think my all-time favorite piece of Godzilla fan fiction. I love Black Mass. Um or someone like Unknowingly. I would trust or Minecraft World or King of Canada or literally anybody with similar credentials or similar thoughts on how narrative quality ought to be, and I mean ought in the philosophical sense. Um, I would trust their judgment a lot more than someone like this guy keeps changing his name, so I'm not going to mention him directly because I really don't remember. I think the last name I remember him having on his profile was Obama Kisuke. I don't remember. I don't know if that's still his name, but yeah, I would trust some the people mentioned previously than someone like him because the arguments that I've seen him make are some of the most brain dead counter arguments that I've ever heard. And I would not trust someone like Rick either when it comes to like film quality or the quality of my own writing. Like if you were to like read this novel I'm working on called Godmorg, I would not trust him with assessing the quality of that story because his standards are they're both inconsistent and flimsy and then flimsy. So when it comes to like that kind of stuff, like saying, "Oh, this stuff sucks," with Zim, I kind of respect Zim for just doubling down and be like, "Yeah, I got a hater. I've got my first hater. I'm proud." I respect him more for doing that because that kind of stuff is meaningless at the end of the day. Like unless somebody has something constructive to say, has like a constructive criticism,
Yeah, say with your
I
chest.
wouldn't take it to heart at all. I would just count it as just white noise.
Exactly.
This is not to interject, but this kind of reminds me. I think Zim might be the only one who remembers this, but remember that when that like Sonic OC guy was like hating on my stuff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for some reason he had a huge hate boner for all the stuff I was doing on my 98 page. And like he kept flip flopping between saying sorry and then he would go back into it, and I'm like, Jesus, what's with this guy? Like that's one of my only, I guess so, because it's like my only bit of lore where like some drama like came onto me. I'm like,
Vic,
what the fuck, dude?
Vic, come on. We all know I'm your biggest and first hater. Your true hater.
Well, I already know that Zim hated my stuff. He made it very well known in the King Tyrannus video that he made. It affected me so much that I had to change everything.
Everything was wrong. But
everything was wrong.
Or what's it called, Vic? Remember that Madison Russell account too that like was pretending to be all goody with you and then like was like talking smack behind your back. Like that kind of stuff I think is like ultra scummy. But real quick, Ori King again coming in with the donations. So this was the clarification I want to clarify. I meant like fandoms you least expect Godzilla fans to appear. And then the other one was I've also seen Godzilla fans in the Murder Drones fandom, Leon Vickers animation fandom, and the Scary Story Time with Liam fandom. Again, I appreciate all of the donations so much. Oreo King.
And it's all from awesome. One guy. Wow.
I know. I appreciate it so much. You are top G tonight. Or actually, no, top Z.
About the fandom.
How much money do you have, by the way?
We'll check actually at the end of the stream.
But yeah, but
he's going to keep commenting. I know it.
I want to know how much money he has that he keeps like donating it out.
Well, what's it called? Everyone who knows the deep lore about me was that I took really good care of my finances, and anytime monstrosities like Matt, he would do streams and stuff. I'd always donate like $100 some odd bucks to his stream, and that was like the big lore for me. And I was like, I guess like I'm not gonna spend it on like games or anything. I was just gonna support a.
You should donate all the funds to the Bringing Back Junkie XL fundraiser.
Ew!
No. Junkie XL fell off after GVK. He was good in Zack Snyder's Justice League. He was good in Batman v Superman. He did an
Batman v
okay
Superman
job with
was really good.
3. Yes.
Wasn't most of Batman v Superman also mostly Zimmer, not him?
He did the Batman theme because Zimmer didn't want to do the Batman theme because he felt like he already made the perfect.
He had already done that. Yeah, yeah.
So
Oh,
he
really?
gave that he gave Junkie XL a chance, which I think sounds really, really good. I think it's one
Oh.
of the most underrated Batman themes.
And
I'll have to listen to
also
it again
he
then.
worked with Zimmer on that Spider-Man one, the one that
Oh, the Amazing
says,
Spider-Man 2. That was him
yeah.
and the Magnificent Six, which also included Junkie XL, and he also helped make Man of Steel.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. He's not directly mentioned in like the soundtrack or anything, but he is or credited. But he in the behind the scenes footage of making the actual soundtrack, he is present. So
He's
yeah,
like in the background in soup.
He's
he's
like
like a
Humpty
disciple of
Dumpty.
Zimmer. He's a disciple of Zimmer, and then over time, became his own composer, with his own identity. And then he said that he thinks that AI music is the future for right
Bruh.
before the release of GXK, no less. I
Uh,
wonder what he meant
Yeah.
by that.
I wonder.
By the way, I've got about 10 minutes before I got to get off here and get my dogs
Bedtime?
outside. And well, no, I
Are you
got
sure
I
about
got to
that?
take care of my dogs. No, I mean, I may be old, guys, but I mean, come on now. I mean, I don't have a job right now. I have my interview on Monday.
Hey, congratulations
good
on
luck.
that. Hopefully that goes well.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Of course.
You
But
went,
no,
you went. My name is hired, and the guy said, "Oh, you're hired," and then boom, you're hired, dude.
Exactly.
yeah, that would be funny. So I just wanted to, say thank you for allowing me to be on here. I mean, I might do a shameful plug at probably near the end if you'll allow me, Zim.
Oh,
I
of
mean,
course.
I don't.
What's it called? Always good. I always let people do their shameful plugs because they are far from shameful. They are the best kind of plugs because they are not drug related.
No.
But
no.
Since you are going to be hanging out soon, was there any other topics you wanted to kind of broach for everyone before that we might want to go talk in more detail with before you bounce out, or was there that was kind of what you had kind of covered in terms of everything?
That was kind of it. I mean, one of the other ones was what I guess you kind of brought it up, which was you don't have that much of an issue with those who want to contribute to the fandom by they make their own like OC Godzillas or whatever. I forgot how you put it.
Fan Gojis?
Where, yeah, fan Gojis. Thank you. That I mean, if it's not designed to make fun of the character, like what you mentioned with the one guy, that if there's like true heart behind it, you don't have an issue with it because they're showing their love for it through this form of whatever fan goji that they created.
Yeah.
And that for me, to be 100% honest, I made my first fan goji, which is what you guys see if any of you do follow my YouTube channel. The LKP goji is actually the design that I came up with years ago, though tweaked a little bit, but it's still the same. I was very nervous about even wanting to go down this path by showing my thought processes on making the backstory for Godzilla himself by just doing what I'm doing now. I was very nervous about doing it because I was very much worried about the Godzilla community as a whole not accepting it and basically not really banishing me, but basically not wanting to do anything with me or what my artwork was or what it is showing off. So the fact that I went on ahead and took that leap of faith with, well, let me see what I can do with this, and it I mean, it took off. It's what caused my channel to explode the way it did, which was the Godzilla Sword video.
Yeah, like I was gonna
showing the
say,
Godzilla
that
swords.
really definitely like propelled your channel a whole lot.
It did, and that's why I was like, okay, maybe this might be something that the community might be interested in. But like I said, I mean, I literally sat there and struggled for I think like 3 months, really, wondering should I do this or not, because I was so worried about the fan base and what they would probably say or do because of my past experiences with the Godzilla fan base. So it's like it was a true struggle to actually put that stuff out there. So I guess my question would be, to kind of finish this off for a little bit, at least for my end. Would you, and I'm talking to the round table here. Hey, stop that. Sorry about that.
There you go.
They're getting restless. How do you guys feel about fan gojis that have different origins to them? That, again, like with Godzilla Earth, he's not a dinosaur. He's not from the ocean. He's basically a giant walking plant. And I'm saying that in a general sense. I mean, I know they explained a whole lot more to it than that. But, I mean, like, even with Godzilla's origins not changing to an extent in the films, but how Godzilla came to be, his origins change here and there, like with Shin Godzilla, or with -1, or with MonsterVerse Godzilla, or, even in the Millennium series, his origins, his storyline kind of changed with like every film, except for like 2. No, 4. No, I don't remember. It's been a long while. But I mean, when it comes down to the fan gojis, though, how do you guys feel about those as a whole?
I
know
don't
for
really
me-
mind.
Yeah, I don't really mind either. I think for me, the one thing that comes into my mind is, like, as someone who also writes and creates characters, is when I see designs that are very like out there for a Godzilla design, my first question is usually going to be like, why do you feel that this is what you'd want to design your Godzilla around? But in most cases, most fan gojis like are just kind of taking Godzilla in a slightly different direction. They aren't super drastic, so that's not usually something on my mind. But in most cases, I think it's like fine for me because it's very much just what fans fans' ideas, what they would want to do if they wanted to design a Godzilla. It doesn't necessarily mean that is their favorite Godzilla, if that makes sense. Because like as much as I like my fan Godzilla design, I wouldn't say like it is my favorite Godzilla design of all time, even though it is mine.
Like,
Right.
so what I notice sometimes is that, like some people just take the Godzilla they like the most and they slightly modify it. For example, you can clearly tell when someone is trying to just make a different version of Shin Godzilla or a different version of 2000. When that happens, like, to me, it's like completely normal, because it's not so easy to make something different without going in the direction that's Sim mentioned, which is like completely different. And then when you take the origins too, like the narrative, and you integrate it into the design, that's also going to be really different depending on the origin, right? Like Shin Godzilla is actually probably one of the most unique Godzillas we had. With the evolutions, with the different forms, the way he looked, all of that. So I think it's fine. Like, people should do whatever. I never care. It's normal whether you make something that's very derivative, because like that's the easiest thing, and that's what most young fans are going to do. And then you move on from that later on, or you're going to just make something really different. I think either way, you can still make something great from both angles.
Also, I have returned.
Oh, there you go.
I
Welcome back to
noticed.
the craft of mine.
Yeah.
To your point, I think. Oh, me or you?
You can go. You can go.
All right, rock paper scissors.
No, you can go.
I'm gonna punch my camera through. All right, so one thing I've noticed when it comes to Godzilla fan creations, and this also applies in general to just fan creations as a whole, a lot of the times I think people just like creating designs more than they actually want to do like actual stories with them, which I think is perfectly fine. I mean, we've got some excellent fan-made Godzilla designs that have no story attached to them, and some people just don't really care about writing a story, which I think is fine. I personally would want there to be more stories attached to said Godzilla designs. There's this one in particular that's based off of I forgot her name, but she was in the original 1954 film. Is it
Ibiko?
Yeah, Emiko?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Her so that version of Godzilla was based off of Emiko's cat. And so it was like the cat mutating into a Godzilla-like creature, so it was more feline looking, and I thought it was one of the coolest things ever, like one of the coolest Godzilla designs ever that I've ever seen, at least fan-made designs that I've seen in a while. There was like a little like sub story attached to it, like day one, this is what the cat looks like. Day two, day three. So it's not like there was nothing going on, and like we actually got to see the evolution. But then this is just me. This is just me. This is not like a prerequisite. I would have wanted to see a full-fledged story based off of that Godzilla design, because I think it's too interesting a concept to just let it be, several quote retweets that serve as like slideshows. I think it's too interesting a Godzilla design to just let it stay that way. Um, I would like it if more people were more involved in creating stories for their designs. But that's just me. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I even know, like, for
Well,
myself, when it's been like stories that I want to do with my other monsters, I'm more focused on like writing a good story rather than having like the monster be the most unique designed monster of all time.
Yeah, that's what I did with God of This World. I forgot about the design. Like I realized, oh crap, I need to do a design. And I just didn't know what to do, so I just didn't bother doing it. But I did have one key marker that identified this Godzilla as opposed to like that separated this Godzilla from all the others that I've seen, and that's that he smiles and smiles with intent. And so like his jaw is distorted in a way that it looks like it's a permanent grimace, but it almost seems like he did it to himself because he always wants to seem like he's smiling when he's destroying, because he's destroying with intent. So I think that's like the
I,
one, if you were to design that, but I had trouble like actively trying to like draw it and design it and conceptualize it.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be hopping off of here.
Okay.
And
So,
King, is there
so,
any links and stuff you want to put in chat for people as to where they can find you?
I don't have any links. I'm sorry. I mean, if you wanted
That's
to,
fine.
I mean,
I can put them
I
in
don't.
the pinned comments probably tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's fine. But I'm right now working on the Oceanus, which is the new name I'm giving my Oceanic Godzillasaurus figure, because I don't want to put the name Godzilla anywhere near it, due to some, I mean, y'all understand.
Well,
Uh,
once get their nuts smacked by Toho.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I now have 22 of those figures made. They are being put together and painted. And also the Anguirrosaurs as well. I have 22 of them. They're going to be constantly printed and made. I have 10 of the actual mutated versions of the Godzillasaurus. And those are going to be a limited run. They're not going to last forever. I'm only going to have 50 of them. After the 50, they're done, because of the fact that it's the literal, it's Godzilla. I don't want to, you know, stretch out my luck, as it were, with
Yeah.
trying to sell those,
Mhm.
because I can get away with the dinosaur version, because I literally just took Stegosaurus plates onto a Tyrannosaurus-like thing, and then took Iguanodon hands and stuck it on there and gave it Spinosaurus feet. I mean, it's an amalgamation. It's like it's literally a dinosaur. So it's like I don't think I can really get in trouble for doing a dinosaur. And so, I mean, shoot, whatever the old play sets had those dinosaurs with the Stegosaurus plates on their back. I mean, I called it a Godzillasaurus because it looked like Godzilla, even though it was a T-Rex with plates on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, John Paleontology just called. He's suing you for copyright infringement.
How could John Paleontology do this?
Well, they don't have my phone number, so they can't find me nowhere. I'm incognito. No, but other than that, I am also working on the artwork for the Gorosaurus this time for the analysis video. But the last one I'm doing for this set is Titanosaurus. He's the last one that I'll be dealing with. And then I'm going to hop off the Kaiju bandwagon or the Toho Kaiju bandwagon and start dealing with my own. I am trying to make or sculpt out a figure for my very first comic. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on the most, is getting that comic finished and getting this figure finished so that they can hit the printers, my printer, and then for the comic, I'm actually Titanic Creations hooked me up with a company where I can send my files over to them for the comic book and have them print it out for me, and they'll send me however many copies that I'm needing so that I can sell them.
That's nice. Awesome, man. Definitely let me know when that's happening. And we'll I'll definitely post that on the channel.
Yeah, I'd love to read it.
Yep, it's called Tyrannus Origins. It's how King Tyrannus came to be.
Nice.
But it's done in a different way that a lot of comics don't really do. And that's why I'm really excited about it, but I've not been able to do it because I've been busy with my little project that made my YouTube explode. So, but again, thank you guys for allowing me to at least be on here. I've been on here now for an hour and 27 minutes. I said I was only going to be here for 30 minutes. Well, I guess you guys can call me a liar. I mean, I don't know.
No, just call you an old man.
You're a grifter. You're a grifter. You're a grifter of time.
Okay, cool. Then I'm now officially a grifter, whatever you youngins want to call it.
All
right, well,
we used to be called liars.
Yeah. What happened to the names? Anyway, thank you guys for allowing me to be on here.
Old man.
Yeah, the future is now, old man.
All right, well, later, guys.
One, peace.
Okay, dude.
See ya.
Have a good one.
Hey, Zim.
Yes.
Without, I've been wanting to know your opinion on something. Without spoiling it, what did you think of what I sent you of Godmorg?
I'm going to be honest, I haven't gotten to read it at all because of assignments, sadly. I hate to disappoint, but I wanted to dedicate actual time to doing it, and I have not had time where I can sit down and actually give it the time that it deserves, unfortunately, which has been the case with a lot of projects that people have been asking me to look at, unfortunately. Wait a second.
Right.
I'm in the wrong skin. I have to go back.
Let me just take off my skin.
Yeah. I'd like to add my piece to what Lizard was asking. Oh shit, Godzilla versus King Kong, but it's Gigabash version. Anyways,
Ape versus monster.
Yeah, ape versus monster.
Ape versus monster. But yeah. Basically, when it comes to Fangoji's personal feeling, I feel like there's a fine line between Geno and not Geno, for lack of a better term, because I feel like there are two very core aspects to Godzilla that needs to be done right, and so long as you have at least one of them, you're good. That being the primordial animal, not exactly a force of nature, but not just a force of nature, but specifically an animalistic being, whether it be a dinosaur or something else. And the mutation, whether it be caused by the nuke or something else. Shin and Titanus are two polar opposites in that regard, where Shin focuses on the mutation, Titanus is more on the animalistic nature, though both are influenced by the inverse, respectively. Two of my personal favorites, and I'm getting into this as to why, and I'll also talk about my experience with Godzilla Legacy because this also makes sense. Godzilla Black Mass and Trago Goji, Kaiju Kuru's original Godzilla take, are both very much focused on the mutation, but they also strike the balance by going in a more like Shin Godzilla-esque direction, focusing on the animalistic nature of the character and how they deal and how the animal is mutating rather than how the mutation acts like an animal. If that
I have a
makes sense.
question for you, Minecraft World, and this is something that just popped into my mind, just straight off the noggin. Do you think that the Shin Godzilla might have accidentally created this something akin to like how the Dark Knight made people only adapt Joker the one way? Whenever when people are trying to adapt a unique Godzilla,
Absolutely.
they always default to evolution.
Oh yeah,
Do you think that's gonna happen?
definitely. I agree with
Absolutely.
that too.
No question. It made Toho do that until -1. And even
Yeah,
then,
I don't think like it's a bad thing necessarily, but at the same
Oh,
time,
no,
I
it
can
is.
see that
Oh
becoming
no, it isn't. It's
like
just
super repetitive.
yeah, it's very consistent. Though a lot, though
Like
I've seen
singular
examples of
point,
this even before.
basically.
Though I've seen examples of this
Singular
even
point
before
of
Shin.
restore.
But like Kuru takes his Godzilla. If he ever comes on, or if we do another pitch stream, I'd love for him to talk about it because that'd be awesome. But he took it in a very similar way to Nemesis, where it's basically a human who was given Godzilla DNA because Godzilla exists prior. That leads to Kiryu. Long story, but it basically undergoes a mutation, and there is a tragedy to it. But it basically his mentality, and to paraphrase him, was, "Oh shit, my Godzilla story needs to have a human element. Why not make the monsters the human element?" Pretty explicitly. So
That reminds me like of Attack on Titan and Kaiju number 8, sort of.
Now that I think about it, yeah. But like, and Black Mass, highly recommended if you haven't read it. By the way, that is genuinely phenomenal.
I have. It's great. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing. But it basically focuses more on the horror of the mutation rather than the like action or even the beauty of the mutation. This is a salamander slowly but surely transforming into something very much not a salamander. Whereas for me personally speaking, because of my bias towards Titanus Gojira, I have a preference towards more animalistic Godzillas that don't really focus on the mutation or the nuclear stuff, but add to it. For Godzilla Legacy, a lot of the things I did were kind of because I had to. Were kind of I kind of had to do it this way if I wanted to stick to the whole scrapped concept-based story, and also just because I wanted to restrain myself from taking it a bit too far. But also, I also felt like, you know what? Why not try and make Godzilla a bit more expressive? So let's ditch the mutation entirely. There was already a basis for him being a man-made organism, Stan Winston. So why not go with that? Also, I have a love for more aquatic-looking Godzilla designs. Like, some of my favorites are very explicitly aquatic-looking creatures, whether they be like webbed feet, fins, or more prominent gills. And so I wanted to try to go for something like that. That's my stance. I think that's the best way I could put it.
I think.
And also, I wanted to say something, Rooney, about what you were saying about like designs first, story second, and all that kind of thing. I actually half agree. Like, but it also, as someone who primarily likes to draw the works and tell via visuals rather than letters, I think it's just because I tend to find it more fun. Not to say I dislike writing. Writing can be enthralling, but I think it's just more gratifying to see what you are making rather than to have it in your head and put it out into words.
No, I completely agree. I think part of like the appeal of just visual storytelling, just graphic novels in general, is the fact that you can actually see what it is that the author wants you to see, as opposed to just hallucinating it in your mind as you read through the words.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are like visual learners, so they would actively. That's why a lot of people prefer comics over like reading books, because of this. So I understand why. I just wish that there was like a balancing. There was a balance between actually designing and not to say that the actual designing isn't bad, but I think that a lot of designs are way too good to just remain as just fan art.
Actually, that was something that I was thinking about with OC Kaiju April, because I was looking at a lot of these designs. A lot of them had really good stories, and for one example, Zim's Necron. Actually, I straight up commented.
Necron!
I straight up stated with that I would like to see a short story about him because this is amazing.
Yeah, he is a character. Like he was definitely a character I definitely thought of story first and then character design second. And as a result, I was able to come up with a design I felt was like super satisfying to me.
Neas was more so design first, story second, where I had the basis of, okay, I wanted to tell the story about mythology and something. So where do I go from here? And as I was designing the kaiju, I kept going back to King Caesar, and then I just used that design and that characterization as a basis. Okay, so I have this King Caesar like kaiju. What is its story? Well, it's a power-up it's the power of a goddess the daughter of Hades and Persephone, and then I just build it off from there. Whereas for Godzilla Legacy, it was more so story first, design second. Well, story and design were both equal priority, actually, where how am I going to combine all of these scrapped concepts both in a narrative and visual sense, and I just started building it from there. Whereas Godzilla The Arrival was story first, design second. Like a lot of because I had to think of the pitch. Most of that was on the fly, actually. But I had the basic premise in mind of, okay, I want to do something with the Griffin. Where do I go from here? And I just came up with a story. And then right now, as I'm working on the animatic, on the animatic pitch redux, I have the design. I'm focusing a bit more on how I want these characters to look. What do I want to change and what do I want to keep from the last time we saw them?
Yeah. No, I respect that.
I think it really just, like, since I think it's probably different for me because I have a lot of, like, stories and characters in mind, too. Oh, God.
Yeah, I tend to work off basic premise, design, and then work a story around it. That's how most of my characters go.
Yeah. I think we could definitely expand this subject a bit more next stream, because next one.
Because there's also a conversation as to which one is more effective when it comes to storytelling. Because I think that if you design stuff first and then write a story around it, you can accidentally write yourself into a couple of corners to where, in such a way that you just can't narratively do what it is you want to do. And so you have to like compromise. Whereas if you just write the story first, you already know what you want to do. It's kind of like how with animation, it's straight ahead versus pose to pose. With straight ahead, you're animating as you go, but that removes any freedom as to like where you want your sprite to end up with. Whereas if you go pose to pose, you already have an idea of where you want the characters to go, kind of like an animatic. That's the whole point of the animatic, and then you can just fill in the blanks as you go. So it's like a written form of straight ahead versus pose to pose. So like if you write first, then it gives you more freedom.
That's why when working on like a visual piece of media, like a movie or show, you tend to write the script out first before visualizing the script, before adapting what
Exactly.
the script is saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like
There is a conversation to be had though, because some people can design stuff in a way that it's with a story in mind without having to actually write the story, and have the design for whatever it is they're trying to do be plausible enough where the story just fits in like a glove. But that, I think, is entirely dependent on the skill, and that would have to be measured by writing a story anyways. So
I wouldn't even say
I
just the skill. I'd also say the intent. If say you were making a design as a challenge and then just wanted to build a story off of it, then that's something completely different. If say someone made a design for Kaijun and they wanted to write a story around that design after the fact because they think the design turned out as well as it did. I don't think that's a question of talent. I just think that's a question of intent.
Yeah. Well, like even then, think about it. Like Tolkien, when he was designing Middle Earth, he like most of his inspiration came from language rather than anything else. So like you can start from like anywhere when it comes to creating a story. I think it really comes down to your dedication as well as sort of like how those disparate elements that you want to add to your story all fit together is the one big whole.
Yeah. That's where the talent and intent intersect, where how well do you actually go about making the story flow as well as it could. One of my earliest kaiju stories, and one that I've been working, I alluded to this one a couple streams back. I think it was back in one of the pitch streams where Black, you were saying you were disowning God of this World and Destroy All Monsters. It was a story that I wrote back in 7th grade that I had the intention of doing, and that I had a really solid mindset, but I didn't feel like I was, but looking back, I was definitely not talented enough to really do the story justice, despite the fact that I think I actually did a lot better than I thought. Like, there were a lot of good things in that original version, but the redraft, especially after, how long has it been since? Oh fuck! No, I'm not aging myself like that. After
Old man.
I'm younger. Zim, I'm younger than you. But like after that, since I've been doing the Redux, after one, getting more inspiration, and two, training myself, for lack of a better term, I feel like I have a bit more talent to pull off the story that I want to do a bit more justice, especially considering this one is nowhere near as serious or as like straightforward as something like Godzilla Legacy, the Gamera concept, or Nea's Goddess of Monsters, among the many others. So
yeah, I think a lot of at least for us anyways, I think what that revealed about most of us in our writing styles is that we tend to gravitate towards what appeals to us emotionally, or what how we're feeling at the time. Like a lot of the writing for Godzilla, God of this World, and even parts of my own writing for Godmorg stems from my current mental state at the time. Even King of Candor in his podcast said, "Oh, when Black was writing this, he was going through a tough period in his life. So this was he perceived it as me venting, which I mean kind of makes sense to some extent, which I feel like I should have restrained a little bit a lot more.
I could definitely see that, especially with the whole monologue bit.
Yeah.
Toward the end.
Wait, the monologue. Oh, yeah, no,
yeah, that the one with the reporter.
Yeah. Wait, which chapter? Which chapter? Because there was like several reporters.
I think it was chapter 6. I don't remember. It was the one where the guy basically exposits his political views and everything that's been happening on the news. The one where it's like the one that Candor on stream, and even Joseph ripped this to shreds, was like, this would never happen in any circumstance. I don't remember the chapter though. I need to look back and find it.
Yeah.
Um,
I might try to do it again because I feel like as a writer, like I feel like I've grown a little bit. I feel like I might just give it another shot, but I might take a lot more inspiration from shows like Chernobyl or stories like Berserk because I mean I feel like because there is a pattern. I feel like Joseph, you mentioned his name. Thank you. So Joseph, he said, "Oh, people tend to make Godzilla fan fiction, and it's always something dark and gritty, and it's all the same." I feel like that's just a testament to. I think there's a reason for that. I don't think it's just people being edgy for its own sake. I think that's just the psychological precondition.
connection. It's like a psychological connection that people have. It's like because like
More than that, I think it's just a precondition because a lot of Godzilla's identity is rooted in serious things. So
Yeah.
making a serious story, I feel it just makes sense.
Yeah, it's
I don't
like-
really see that as a bad thing, really.
Yeah, it's
that
like
a lot
in
of
comparison, like since you brought it up, like I've also seen a lot of Gamera fan fiction take it a bit more lighthearted because that's Gamera's nature. Even in the Heisei films, they're still pretty lighthearted at times, despite the very serious nature. So it's like if you're gonna make Gamera dark and silly, that goes against the point of the character. A very similar thing applies to Godzilla.
Yeah, I think
Well,
people just
not exactly.
intuitively understand the full identity of a character as well. And a lot of Spider-Man fan fiction, for example, we always see Spider-Man and Mary Jane married, or Spider-Man and Felicia Hardy together. It always leans towards Spider-Man being happy because on top of the fact that Spider-Man has been put through a meat grinder narratively, it's also just the writers, they don't let him be happy. So usually they'll have Spider-Man go through hardships, but at the very end of the day, still end up like being happy because he deserves to be happy.
Whereas the inverse of like a lot of Sonic fan fictions have Sonic in a darker place or straight up turn evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're tired of Sonic, not having like a full arc or just his entire personality is just being the optimist, and it's never rooted in anything concrete because he himself admit that his foundation is literally the wind. So they want to concretize his identity in something.
He's a free spirit. That's his entire character. He's neither good nor bad. He just does what he feels is right. And sometimes
I mean, that still kind of just presupposes that there is a right and a wrong to follow.
Yeah, but like it's not objective right or wrong. It's his own morals. That's literally the entire plot. Black Knight.
So yeah, I think that's what whenever people make dark fan fiction of Sonic, I think that's what a lot of people find frustrating because they want instead of him being like free like the wind, they want him concretized in something. You know what I mean? They want him because humans like generally we crave consistency, we crave stability in some sense, we crave a solid foundation for our beliefs and stuff like that. So they want Sonic to reflect that, which is why I understand whenever they make Sonic evil or they make Sonic suffer. Like I understand it's antithetical, but at the same time, I feel like I kind of understand why people, and I also think that's why people gravitate towards Shadow a lot more than Sonic. Like people just naturally prefer Shadow over Sonic
because Shadow
of that reason.
Because Shadow is much more morally gray by comparison. Not exactly evil, but he's if Sonic is Gamera, Shadow is Godzilla.
Pretty much, yeah. And so people just even Silver. People like Silver. I like Silver, but it's a similar concept. Although he's not as dark as Shadow. I think people are attracted to the darkness of Shadow.
I think the reason people like Silver is just because he's underused.
Yeah, people like Silver because he's
too.
underused.
That too. Like conceptually, I think he's people have compared him to Trunks, or as I like to call him, the drink. But yeah, like I understand why people compare him to Trunks, but I feel like there's more to him to Silver that can be done. But overall, my main point, I don't want to deviate too much. I think the overall main point is that people make dark Godzilla stories because they're the fandom is a mirror to Godzilla's identity, and they're just reflecting that. I don't think it's just people that want to be edgy for edgy's sake.
I mean, that's not to deny that there are certainly fan fictions that are that, but
Oh yes, no, absolutely.
I personally go in the opposite direction. For me, like I would focus on more of like the action-packed adventure side of the Godzilla, like fandom or franchise.
definitely here. Like that's like you and I.
I mean, there's an entire hours upon hours of footage of monsters just fighting with absolutely no story whatsoever. It's just here monster, here other monster. They meet, they fight, one wins. That's the end. There's nothing. I
It's
like.
funny you say
I
that
like
because
consuming
actually
content like that.
Legendary just made a stream that's only the action scenes from the Monsterverse.
Dude,
I think it was
that might as
released
well just be the MonsterVerse experience, because like a lot of the conversations that I've seen with Godzilla fans is that that's exactly like all they want. They want just the fights and no story whatsoever. And I think Godzilla never started out that way, so there's absolutely no reason why he should be that way. This is why with my friend group, I do not. I just refuse to talk Godzilla with them because they are that crowd that only care about the fights. There are some here and there, like King Kandor, for example, that he will see the nuance behind Godzilla, and he will be the devil's advocate for the people that just wants to be the fight. So I do respect him for that. But the thing is that I just cannot fundamentally respect people takes on Godzilla if that's all they think Godzilla ought to be, because I don't really think. On top of the fact that I believe Godzilla can be so much more, I don't think there's like an inherent value compared to something. Because like one thing is just a YouTube video, and another completely different thing is just an entire film or a movie or a book or just a painting. I think just making that to see how cool it would be versus making another piece of art based off of wanting to tell a story or wanting to appeal to beauty or wanting to show people what these things are, monsters specifically, what they're capable of. I respect those more than just. I respect people that lean on that side more than people that just want Godzilla. And I say ought again, that Godzilla just ought to be just the fights and ought to be just action. And to Vic's point, I feel like dark and gritty stories can also be action packed. I mean, Berserk.
Yeah, I was about to say, Berserk is like a big example of one that's like very
Attack on
action-packed.
Titan. Any Souls games you've ever seen. Just
Bloodborne.
Warhammer. Warhammer's a big one, actually.
I don't doubt that like a gritty story can be like action packed. It's just from my experience of other films like that I've watched, the only thing I come away with when it comes to that is I like the action scenes from that movie, but the overall movie itself, I can take it or leave it. Because I tend to not gravitate towards any stories that focus on or are driven by the dark or gritty, serious tones. I prefer things with a bit more like levity, adventure, pulpy stories like that. And that's like
Also
what
like
I desire
Gamera?
to write.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that.
I'm
So yeah,
I'm
yeah.
actually-
I feel like
I'm
Gamera is like a
actually-
good example.
Yeah.
I like Gamera.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, I guess
actually.
so.
I also get it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I also get it because I'm not necessarily that like with the greedy or lighthearted, but for example, like movies that are or stories that are like realistic, like I'm not really interested in. Like if it's like about drugs or people shooting each other with guns, normally I don't really care at all. Like I can like the scenes, like the action scenes, but I'm not going to watch the movie more than once, if I even do that.
I'm sort of an in between where gritty is not something that I actively enjoy. Like, well, not actively enjoy is not the right word, but like actively gravitate towards. But also, I would like to have something a bit more. Like Gamera, since we brought it up, I love Gamera as well because not only is it like fun to watch, but it also, at least the first three movies, actively try to do something with their stories, whether or not they succeed. Hell, the rest of the Showa era, I would say, I might do a video on this at one point, but like the Showa era as a whole actively tried to be something more than it was. Most of its shortcomings are because of budgetary limits and the inability to do the things that it wanted to do at the time. Like Matt Draper's retrospective really puts into perspective just how ambitious these movies were. That's also why I'd say the Heisei films are so gratifying. Like the Heisei films onwards are so gratifying because we get to see those ambitions and those stories that were wanted to be told finally be told in the way that they honest to God deserve to be.
King of the Monsters. I mean, sorry, not King of the Monsters. Godzilla, King Ghidorah. Never mind, I ruined the joke. Ruined it.
Well, one thing I kind of wanted to
Was
say
that
in
like a
response
Max
to
Allo
the-
reference?
No, that was, I was gonna say Godzilla versus King Ghidorah as a callback to Sea Monster, but never mind.
Oh right, yeah. I know he was in the chat earlier too.
Wait. Oh yeah, he was. I think.
Yeah, there he
I
is.
saw him
Yeah,
earlier. Yeah, there he is.
he'll be
Yeah.
listening intermittently. He's there in spirit.
Yeah,
I feel like it's with tone. It's not necessarily that tone equals good or tone equals bad. I just think that tone is rooted in a character's identity, and I feel like Godzilla adopting Gamera's tone or Gamera's identity, essentially just usurping it, is a detriment to both what Ishiro Honda would have wanted, and also just narratively because it cuts the narrative potential in half. Versus where, and I would feel the same way if Gamera just became Godzilla. I mean, there was a whole phase where Batman just became this edgelord character and started acting out of character.
Hey, I like Azrael Batman. Do not besmirch my golden child's name in this house. You choose your
Okay,
words
whatever,
very
Grandpa.
carefully, Black.
Okay, whatever, Grandpa. But, no, like, there's a reason why people hated Zack Snyder's Batman. Now, personally, like, I think that having Batman killed, for example,
I'll let you finish.
yeah, I think Batman killing is fine if we actually get to see the journey and the aftermath. I think conceptually, Batman losing his moral code as opposed to just him never having it is a good idea. It's just that it was executed terribly, and the film, for a time, takes Batman's side before ultimately realizing that he's wrong, but then he still kills people. So, like, did he learn his lesson or not?
And I like that you mentioned Zack Snyder's movies. It's like that was one of the biggest things that many people, bar the Snyder fans, actually that shouldn't need to be mentioned because Snyder fans, but like why so many people, well, for one, had a massive dislike of Snyder's take on Superman and are so much more hopeful for this upcoming Superman movie because Snyder, for lack of a better term, nearly butchered Superman as a character. Yeah. And even then, it wasn't really.
Superman committed genocide of his own people. I just want that known. He killed those Kryptonian babies.
And even then, it wasn't just Snyder. It was also stories like Injustice that completely misunderstood not just Superman as a character, but why he is such a popular character. Why he is the poster child for superheroes and comic books as a medium.
Mm-hmm. But just
I wouldn't want
context, like I wanted to ask something. Was Injustice like a video game first and then a comic, or
it was
the
a video game first and then it was a comic?
Video game.
Okay, so it was made by the guys from Mortal Kombat, right?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I would say that it's not the same as the Snyder thing, because Snyder is trying to establish, like this new continuity that's going to, like be like its own.
No, but it's also like
but
that wasn't really my point. My point was that Injustice kickstarted this trend of evil Superman and Superman not being as morally righteous as he should be, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah, I think with Red Sun, I think that's an exception because I think Superman.
Definitely. Red Sun is more for just trying something different.
Yeah, with Red Sun, I think he's more justified because like there's an actual arc of him learning to be more Superman-esque as opposed to just a
Red
communist.
sun over paradise. Red sun.
I'm sorry, I had to do it.
No, you're fine. uh,
Oh, MGS. Never change.
yeah. Or
But
yeah.
let's call it. I did say I was gonna make it a 2-hour stream, so I'll give you guys 5 more minutes and we'll have one more topic before we end it off.
Okay. Yeah, I was also going to circle back to a different tangent, like to a different example. Since we were talking even about Sonic earlier, like that's another reason why the 2010s games were so derided and why there was a lot of pressure with the IDW comics when they were first releasing. Because Sonic became a very different character when Colors released.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, personally, I don't find Sonic as interesting as I did back when I was a kid. I think I would naturally just gravitate. Like growing up, you like Sonic, and as a kid, you like Sonic, but growing up, you just start to prefer Shadow naturally. And Shadow has been slowly becoming like a main character, which I get.
I also just think that's why the movie and Frontiers were so relieving, because even if the movie was such a different since you brought up Red Sun, I compare the movie take on Sonic to be an equivalent to Red Sun Superman, because it's Sonic learning to be Sonic, and yet there's still a lot of his natural characterizations in there.
Yeah, I much prefer the characterization of Sonic in the movie as to the games.
Same.
As well as there's also just like there's not a lot of baggage that comes with it with versus the games.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, back to looping it back around Godzilla, the whole ethos of Godzilla, if you will. I think, as a general rule, we can have this just established be a rule with fan fictions as a whole. Like people will naturally reflect what they understand to be Godzilla's identity, which is why they will replicate it. And I think it's a good thing. I genuinely think it's a good thing. I don't see that as a bad thing at all. And I think we should nurture that as a fandom. I think we should, nurture that. Having Godzilla just become Gamera and just indulge in the Thanatos of the destruction. I know that sounds redundant, but just indulging in that. I don't see like any artistic. It sounds pretentious, but I don't think there's a whole lot of narrative merit to narrative weight to just indulging.
I think like the other thing too is that like when it comes to the indulgence of it, I think that a lot of times when I see certain people's like fan takes on characters, my first thought is like I would love to see you expand on these ideas with a new character, because the character that you are having embody these ideas seems limiting to the stories you want to tell. And I think that like in a lot of ways, because I know a lot of the people who do these things are often younger, I think in a developmental like sense, it's good for them because they're able to kind of like whet their chops when it comes to writing or art and things of that nature. And then as they get older, they want to create more. Then that's where I think they learn. And I think that's what separates creatives who really have that spark versus others who just kind of want to play around in the sandbox they know with like ideas that they like.
I would argue that creative storytelling, regardless of how you look at it, is playing around in a sandbox. It's just there are very different ways to.
No, I think both of them are playing around in the sandbox. I think what I mean by that is playing around in someone else's sandbox versus playing around in the sandbox you create.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's one thing I used to think this way as a kid. I had this god complex when I was playing with my toys, because I always thought that I played with my toys better than everyone else.
Okay,
because
you still do. You still have a god complex of some kind.
Yeah, but I used to believe that I used to play with my toys better than other kids, because whereas other toys just wanted to see these characters fight, I would, for example, when I had like my Spider-Man action figures or my Legos, or or I would always give them like a backstory, give them a motivation for fighting. For example, I had a Iron Spider action figure with an iron fist. I would be like, okay, we have to train so we can defeat the Green Goblin, and I would always make sure that the fights look as realistic as possible. Like I would physically take the arm and punch it. I use it to punch Iron Fist's face, and it was like I always thought like my version of kid fighting with toys was better because I actively tried to replicate a choreography. And so what I've come to learn from that was, and this is probably the most autistic thing you've ever heard me say, but the value I derive from that experience is okay. Writing is a sandbox, but are you making sure that your sandbox turns into something coherent, or do you just want to just eat sand? That's what I want to delineate. That they're just
Is it a human sandbox or
friend.
is it a cat sandbox?
Yeah, you don't want.
Is it a sandbox or is it a litter box?
Is it a sandbox or a
Exactly.
lizard box? Yeah, you don't want. I think one ought to play with the sandbox and know what they're doing in the sandbox, as opposed to just throwing everything around in the sandbox and just eating the sand.
See,
I
honestly,
saved you
from-
the. I'm
honestly,
not gonna
for me-
finish that one.
honestly, for me, I think both alternatives are interesting enough because it all really comes down on what the person wants to do, whether or not like maybe throwing the sand around isn't the best thing to do, but if it's for the purposes of the story, then so be it. Or if they just maybe they don't even want to write a story, they just want to have fun with like a Lego set that they just picked up, and maybe have Kai and Luke Skywalker fight it out in the middle of Lego City or something. I don't know. Whereas
In Lego City, Luke Skywalker commits a homicide. It's your turn to get Trauma Team from Cyberpunk ready. Hey,
The reason why I'm opposed to that entirely
we'll also
is
make
not
this everyone's
because...
closing statements, by the way, just letting y'all know.
Oh yeah, okay. So it's not because I'm trying. I want to limit people and what they do or anything. I just don't. It's out of reverence for just how people. It's out of reverence specifically for Godzilla. It's out of reverence for what Ishiro Honda did. I don't want people to use Godzilla as their, because a lot of the time I have recently been thinking about GXVK and GXK, and I have used this word. I don't think I've ever used this word to describe them, but I find them to be masturbatory in a sense. Like it's just masturbatory to the brain and the senses. And if you're using like a Godzilla to jack off your brain, I don't think that's a good usage of him, and just any piece of media in general. Mainly because it devalues its purpose and existence. I don't want Godzilla to be turned into an emotional dildo. And so
Do not
whenever-
give the companies any ideas, Rennie.
oh no. So
hey, for all we know, a Godzilla dildo is in the works.
I do not want to think
probably already
about
exists.
No!
I put you down that rabbit hole today, Zim.
It probably already exists, but my whole point is, I don't want people to use Godzilla as a dildo because it's for the same purposes as like people generally don't, especially of different religions, generally don't like fornicating because it devalues they feel like it dehumanizes the other person to even if they're both consenting, it dehumanizes the person to just be we're just using each other for short-term pleasure as opposed to like a long-term connection. That's why so like that's how I view Godzilla. As something more than just a masturbatory, it's just like an emotional vibrator. I see him as like an actual being, an entity that deserves respect. And so whenever I'm making like stories of Godzilla, or if I make more stories of Godzilla, I want to honor that. And so whenever people just jack their feelings off with Godzilla. I just feel like he's being disrespected, and I look at them with disdain, which is why I just despise GVK and GXK as much as I do.
Mhm. I kind of see that.
Minecraft, it's you're given the floor. Then,
Actually, no. I'm gonna
Next.
save what I'll say for later because I think
okay.
next week would be a really nice avenue to continue this conversation, especially considering the topic.
Fair enough. Then we'll have Vic, then Lau, then Minecraft World.
So, what is it? Closing statements or
Closing statements, yes, sir.
All right.
Well,
So I
as
guess
my
what I'll
book-
say is that when it comes to stories, as a semi-response to Black, is that I think that I guess it just depends on perspective. Because I know that whenever I write stories, I always write them with the best intentions in terms of respecting, even if it's just like my own characters or other characters, respecting what came before, and just doing my own interpretations based on just, I guess, what I've seen and what I've liked, and taking those aspects and turning it into my own thing. And I think that's the powerful thing about storytelling and writing and creating, is that you take like things you've seen and that tickle your fancy, I guess, and then you make your own thing with it. And like I would only hope that that same process just continues on and on. And I think that happened with me personally with GVK and GXK. Like the stories I want to tell, I want them to be as subjectively good as I view them. And of course, I'll do my own best to make them narratively sound, but also get that same fulfillment of joy that I got in those works. And that's my statement.
There you go. Lau, any thoughts?
No, I don't really have anything new to add. Everything I said was basically it.
All right. Then Minecraft, any final statements?
I pretty much said all that I want to say, but before we close, I just say, like, since we're closing out, give some quick recommendations for the audience before we leave. Gurren Lagann, Nosferatu, definitely give that a rewatch, especially since Sea Monster is going to be talking about that movie again on Saturday. And Rooney, I think you should be there because it's the one video that you were referring to. So, yeah. And, yeah. Also watch the Gamera movies. They are really fun, and Gamera's anniversaries this year, so it's well deserved in timing.
Yeah, I already watched them. I might rewatch them though, because I really do like them.
Yeah.
As well as, what's it called? It's Anguirus' 70th this year, too.
Oh, yeah. Happy birthday.
I have
really-
things to say about Anguirus, but I will leave that for the next stream. I actually do have to go, so thank you for having me, Zim. I actually,
As always.
yeah. You can find my channel in. I don't know where Zim's gonna link it, but he's gonna link it somewhere.
Yeah,
I have a new video.
Comments.
I have a new video. Watch it. It's funny. It's got a lot of funny quotes. You can quote me on a lot of stuff that I said. And yeah, I'm actually hop off because I do need to go. But thanks for having me.
Of course. Peace, man. Have a good one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll make sure to post everyone's channels and stuff and all the good shillings in the pinned comments. Again, also big shout out to the almighty Oreo King, because if everything is correct, I just want to count it up real quick. So
6 different
30,
super chats.
40, about $45 essentially, but then also YouTube's 30% cut. But again, I thank you so much for that, man. And again, thank you even to the people who didn't send a super chat. Just because you didn't does not mean I view you guys any less. I appreciate all the views you guys give me. And yeah, there's also the 20th anniversary for King Kong 2005. I might have to do a stream on that too, since it is the 20th anniversary. But we'll see. Live stream again is going to be around the same time on Thursday next week. It's probably going to switch to Tuesdays again because of my schedule. We'll see. There's a Godzilla Unscripted that's coming out soon as well, among other videos. That is it, guys. And always remember.
Semper Fi, motherfucker.